Welcome everybody to a new episode of Flower Circus Talks. Today a very special guest, somebody who started with plants, or his interest in plants started already when he was 5 years old and when plants weren't really cool amongst his friends. And now many years later, or not so many years later, he's not old yet. He doesn't look old for sure. He is now known as Mr. Plantgeek, inspiring the whole world with his stories about plants. He has some great plants. Uh, just last week, his podcast was the number one podcast for many days in a row. So, without further ado, let's quickly get Michael Perry into the live stream. And there he is.
I love this countdown. It gives you so much suspense.
Yeah.
Cool. Good to see you, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. I apologize. I haven't got any beautiful backdrop. I can't show you my garden. I'm not in any nice outfit like you because I'm in London working on some TV shows this weekend. So yeah, so please forgive my really beige and brown backdrop. Sorry about
that. That's a typical hotel view.
Yeah, there's no plants in hotels. Maybe that's something we need to work on.
Yeah, let's start a petition on that one.
Yeah.
So, but luckily we have some videos and some pictures of your garden as well, so we can show that to the world. Before you start, I already explained you were into gardening already quite at a young age.
Yeah, when I was, I don't know, my earliest memories of just being in the garden with my grandparents, and they were doing lots of different growing. They were also exhibiting at flower shows.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would have flower shows like that in Holland. You would have very traditional ones where everybody tries to grow the best delphinium or 5 broad bean pods that are identical. And they used to have children's classes. And I used to build like a garden on a plate. And there was some baking and kind of all sorts of really cool little classes. And I just started growing with my grandparents. And soon I was taking over what you see there, which is my parents' garden.
Yeah.
And I had a little patch which became bigger and bigger and pretty much took over the whole garden. And by the time that I was, maybe 12 years old, I was running a very small scale mail order herb nursery from the bottom of the garden where you can see just by that gate at the end.
Yeah.
I was selling plants through the post. I was printing my own catalogs. I had a photocopier in my bedroom.
Yeah.
I love plants and I love sharing plants with people. And I also could see them as a fun and enjoyable way to make money as well, because of course it was something I enjoyed. So that's where, passion and career have then, grown up together right from that really young age. So
that's great, and that's actually how you ended up in the plant industry as well, not knowing what to do. And the teacher told you maybe you can be a florist or maybe you can garden designing.
I think in those days if they didn't know what to do with you, they would send you on a horticultural course, which is such a disrespect to horticulture, right? I'd like to think it's probably different in Holland, where horticulture is a much bigger industry. It's probably a lot more respected, but certainly here it was always kind of the poor man's career, which is just awful. And so I was kind of suggested in that direction, but it turned out I wanted to work in that direction anyway. So whilst I didn't want to be a landscape gardener or a florist, I kind of wanted to work with plants, and I didn't know quite how. And so I went to college, and then towards the end of college, I then entered a competition to design a garden at Thompson & Morgan, which is the big mail order plant company in the UK. And I won the competition and then just basically wrote in for a job afterwards. In those days, you wrote a letter as well. This is before and they replied. I went for a very short interview, and then I was taken on as an apprentice, and then had an 18-year career at Thompson & Morgan, like learning about new plants and getting involved in brand new plants and concepts. And it was right from the very first day, it was a dream job, always was.
But you had a sabbatical during that period as well.
Yeah, so maybe 10 years in, I had a bit of a break where I went to then travel the world, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand. Initially, I was intended to hand my notice in, but obviously I must have been valuable to them because they kept me on a kind of like a retainer, so a very small amount each month with the bonus that I'd go back. And that was nice to have a bit of time out. And also, I think during that time, because when I started at Thompson & Morgan, I was a really shy teenager with no confidence or anything. So kind of coming back from traveling, I then started in a slightly different role, which was before I went traveling, I was working on the seed side of the business. When I went back, I was then working on the plant side, which was the more progressive at that stage. And, you know, plug plants were kind of really becoming popular at that point in time as well. And so I was then pushed into a lot of different opportunities by my boss. And I was really like, oh, no, I can't do that. I'm not. Oh, no. But I got used to being pushed into this stuff and started to push myself into it and just boost your confidence by encouraging yourself. And what's the worst that can happen? And sometimes the feeling of euphoria that you get after being scared, but doing it anyway, is brilliant. It's addictive. So, so I just kind of got used to that and started to develop in a much different way after I returned from traveling because I had a different type of confidence.
That's great. Well, we've got some people in. Willie Armelini, Flowers and Scents from the US. We've got Peter Kuitin from last week, the Flower Stud. You've got something in common as well, because I can see the tattoos as well for you.
Oh, yes, I saw this guy. Yeah.
Kirsten Van Dyke is in. Hello all. So, you're so in love with all the plants and the flowers. I mean, they're all, not all over your body, but you got a lot of tattoos from them as well.
I don't know where that started, but there's no design, there's no particular plan. But where's the best one? Auricula. There you go. But there was no particular plan. It's just my favorite flowers. They just built up, and we kept adding more and more. This is obviously grayscale, so this is just black, and this is watercolor, so it's kind of watered down. So there's a peony there. Where are we? The heuchera. This is sponsored. This one is sponsored as well. Can you see that? This is hydrangea love, which was sponsored. What else? Digitalis illumination, I think, is up here. Where am I?
Yeah, it's the other way around. Yeah, I can see it. Beautiful.
And so I wonder if I'm the only person in the UK to have sponsored tattoos, first of all.
No, I think there are more, but you're the first person. Yeah, but with beautiful flowers on it. I think there are more with sponsored things of the local pub or something like that. But
that's not real though. That's not. That's just what. It doesn't count if you have it done when you're drunk.
Oh, okay. That's also true. We've got Mel in. Good evening from Queensland. We've got.
Wow! Hey.
Yeah, Kirsten Van Dyke asking, just on your arms.
Well, I have on my back, you know, the new Mangava plant.
Yeah.
Coming through from Plantgeek. I actually got a bit of a montage on my back of that. And some lovely Czech Republic gladiola on my leg. So not just on the arms. So but I don't. It's got to the stage where you don't see it as a number of tattoos anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I've got 10 tattoos. It's like I've got tattooed body.
Okay. Just for the growers and the breeders out there watching, how much does it cost to get a place on your body as a tattoo?
It depends on the design. I mean, what's the day rate? I think is something like £600. Something like this would only take perhaps half a day though, so it's not such a so that's my price list.
Okay.
And of course it stays there, you know.
Yeah. Or maybe there's place for a flower circus hat. It's not a flower, but yeah. Kirsten's saying you're like a walking bouquet. Or a walking garden, but it's beautiful, and I mean, you're so in love with the plants, and it really fits you as well. And I mean, it's great to see how you share your love with plants. You're sharing it day and night. It doesn't matter if you just came out of the shower or just out of bed.
Yeah.
You're always there, and that makes it real, and for the people as well. Because what I notice a lot of time, people are afraid of buying flowers and plants because they're afraid that they will die. They can't handle the flowers and plants. But you explain it in quite a fun and easy way.
But also, I think, I don't know, there's a lot of kind of snobbishness sometimes in horticulture, or kind of people have a real fear of failure. And I think that's silly. And kind of like, if a plant dies, it's probably not your fault. You know, there's so many variable factors. You know, it's a living thing. It's not always going to perform the way that you expect it to. And I think somehow, you know, there's people worry about that. And it's just, I guess it's the only living thing they have to deal with outside of pets and kids, isn't it? So that's why they perhaps fuss. But I've just had always had a much more laid back attitude to it. You know, also in terms of people often in the industry, they kind of pick up on how people pronounce names or Latin names sometimes. And it's like, why do you need to do that? It doesn't matter at all, you know? And also, like, you know, if I call a geranium a pelargonium and, you know, people are like, no, it's like, it doesn't matter. And this is that kind of snobbishness that I like to kind of try and delete, because that then makes everything more accessible to the outsiders. Because sometimes as horticulturists, we're quite, I don't know, like territorial about our knowledge. Because I feel like in the UK, it's always been undervalued. So then we've kind of become territorial and we don't necessarily let other people into it, but we kind of just need to do that. And I do that through just being relaxed, you know, just like, you know, if you break a piece off the plant, it doesn't matter. You know, that's a cutting. I find a positive out of every negative. And of course, some of this led to the WTF gardening, which is on my website, which is
great.
Can I say it or not? What the?
Yeah, of course. it's Dutch, so.
It's basically taking all these gardening terms, and I think sometimes in horticulture we can say all these terms and forget what they actually mean. And so so this is just kind of like trying to explain these terms in simple ways, and that's all I want to do with any of my communications, and just help people to chill out a bit, and also find new ideas as well. Because when you go along to the garden center, or, you know, there's not always the new ideas coming through on TV programs and such. It's kind of, and I always like to look at things in a really different way. And I'm about to do a piece of work for the Always Kalanchoe company, branding company for Kalanchoe. And we're going to build a Kalanchoe theatre, like an auricular theatre. And so I'm kind of, that would work in well with your Circus theme, actually, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So
just different ways that I then create content for companies, which has become really enjoyable. And I kind of lucky that I can think off the wall and out of the box with this stuff as well. So
I think that's really important, especially now with the pandemic, that a lot of new young people got interested in flowers and plants.
Yeah, and definitely.
They don't know the Latin names, but they don't need to know the Latin names.
Not at all. Honestly, you know, you can engage with plants at whatever level you want to. And also, I'm not necessarily trying to appeal to the audience that watch the garden programs or the audience that are already interested in plants. I'm trying to recruit people from, you know, all the different areas, and trying to kind of let them into, you know, our hopefully inclusive horticultural arena. And so that's maybe people coming from, you know, a cooking interest, or arts and crafts, or perhaps rude botany as well. You know, people giggling at how a plant looks like a penis is kind of like, it's helping me to recruit them and bring them into our world, but in a number of different ways. And so I'm not appealing to the same audiences as everyone else. And I think that's what has really set me apart as well, I think. So obviously Red and Wacky Plants is another part of that. And and it's just all about my passion, and not being too worried about following the rules all the time as well.
You got a great video on YouTube as well, the 18 plus video for about the root plants. The link the link is in the comments, so people can watch it and enjoy it. It's a real fun video.
Yeah, it's just fun to just show these plants to people, and you know, it can't be rude. It's just botany, you know.
But that's the whole thing. All flowers and plants, it's all about emotions, and I think we were too serious and not showing all the emotions, or even taking away the emotions, and let people enjoy the flowers and plants. And if there's something crazy, the tomato, you also worked with that plant. A lot of people said it's crazy. People don't buy it because it shouldn't be like that. But I think if you tell people, look, this is what's happening, they all go crazy.
Well, do you know what? When we released the tomato, which is basically potatoes on the bottom, tomatoes on the top, I was amazed at the demographic that was interested. It was teenagers. You know, it was people that weren't previously interested in plants whatsoever. They suddenly switched on to this crazy kind of like Frankenstein plant, and they were like engaged with it, and it was just amazing. And you wouldn't get that if you introduced a new fuchsia or a new geranium, you're not going to get teenagers interested in that. Even if you tell them it's an exciting color break, they don't care. You need these things to be different, and that's where, in my time, I've brought in a lot of new plants, but I've also kind of helped to rebrand plants to make them appealing to different audiences and kind of just change things up a bit, like with climbing petunias or ground cover lilies, a lot of these different concepts.
Yeah. It's if we say we're sometimes too much in this market and saying, yeah, but now we found an even wider one, or there's one stripe more on the flower leaf.
Yeah.
I mean, the normal people that go to a garden center maybe 5 times a year, they don't see the difference.
Yeah, you have to find a way to communicate it to the audience. So you just have to look deeper and find the story behind that introduction, because, it can be hard to find that difference sometimes, but there's bound to be some way you can do that and, find a way that they previously wouldn't have looked at it. And the breeder probably wouldn't see it that way at all, but you need to do it a different way for the consumer. And, the reason why it's going to be better for them, or why it's going to be different and more interesting. And, I know sometimes, things are introduced because of their commercial, kind of benefits. Perhaps it flowers earlier or this and that. And sometimes that doesn't mean much to the consumer. So it's just quietly introduce it as a replacement is probably best. But sometimes you can pick nice USPs out and make a big story of them. And that's the thing that's going to get you the headlines. And I think because I spent 20 years putting together mail order catalogs, I became quite good at describing plants in just one sentence, and with the most eye-catching title and headline. Yeah, but
you need to. We've got a question from Kirsten Van Dyke. I wonder about the need to know the botanical name. I mean, if the newcomers start with the basics, the botanical name, won't it help them future exploration? In example, exploration, the euphorbias, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody that starts, it doesn't matter if it's flowers, plants, nail polish. Mm-hmm. They just start out of interest, and it will grow later. I mean, with cars as well. Yeah. You start with, I like blue cars, and then you see, okay, I like the Ferrari better than a Vauxhall.
Yeah, I think, botanical name is of course important, but it doesn't mean someone needs to know all the botanical names before they're allowed to grow a plant. Do you know what I mean? I just think we attach too much importance to that, and I would rather someone was engaging with the plant rather than they might grow a plant and never know what the name is. Does that matter? Why would that matter?
Yeah, I always compare it with going to the doctor. If he tells me in Latin, yeah, you broke this, that, and that, then I think, okay, it must be my leg, but because my leg hurts. Yeah. I'd rather have him explaining that, okay, it's your leg.
Yeah.
Than saying it in Latin.
And exactly. So it's just. And even, they might not even know the common name for the plant. It still doesn't matter. They might call it some cute common name themselves. I just think sometimes we get caught up on the wrong things in horticulture,
Yeah, and expressing the USPs, I think that's way more important.
Yeah. Well, that's, over the years, kind of probably a lot of the purists out there would, not approve at all. But I've renamed plants, or I've given plants, cooler names or kind of nicknames, which have become then the marketing name. I remember this is probably the worst example, but there's a plant called Burkea purpurea, and I marketed that as a purple sunflower because it looks just like a sunflower. And this is perfectly tongue-in-cheek, and whenever I would do something like that, I would have the Latin name in brackets underneath, so it's completely transparent, but it's just fun and getting people's attention and kind of it's not technically a sunflower, but if you want a sunflower effect but with a color break that is purple, then here you go, I've got it for you. And it's exciting and people love that. And that's where mail order allows you the opportunity to do that, because in a garden center you've only got the label where you can put the info, and you've also only got the display, and the displays obviously got to look good at the time, whereas in mail order you can use cool pictures, you can have a lovely story, lovely headline, you've got a real opportunity to tell that story as well, and it pays off, and you might recruit people in a number of different ways.
And in a garden center you rely on the grower who puts in a label, and maybe you don't even like it, or the grower thinks the label is too expensive, let's put a small one in. I mean, there's so much possible nowadays with those labels and things.
I know. And sometimes the pictures aren't even the best. And I think obviously what can be misleading to the consumer as well is when plants are in the garden center in flower. And of course, we know they've been treated with chemicals to make them do that. But it's very misleading. And that's where mail order kind of gave you more option to offer more unique plants and plants that didn't have to follow all of those rules of looking good when they're young or kind of flowering earlier. And mail order gives you a lot more freedom to introduce interesting plants. It really does. And also more limited quantities, because you don't need as much as you would need for a whole garden center chain. So very often when I was searching out new varieties, I'd be, looking in the bin at the breeders' locations to look at the stuff that they didn't think was commercially viable, but it still had a really good mail order outlet. Maybe rosebud geraniums, they are not the neatest plant. So when you see it as a young plant in a garden center, you probably wouldn't want to buy it. So it's not suitable for that market. But mail order, you have this lovely picture of a rosebud geranium on the page. You tell the story, you send plug plants that people grow on anyway. So it doesn't matter if they don't look good when they're young, because a plug is a plug. And you can tell the story in a different way. And so, mail orders should not be underestimated.
Yeah. And I think people forget, if you grow it yourself, people will love it anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
If they buy it in a garden center, it has to look good, because they can choose, because there are probably 100, so they will choose the best one. But if they put all the love in it themselves, they will like it, even if it's not grown as good as the plant you can buy at a garden center. But they did it themselves. They're proud. I mean, I remember when all my colleagues and I also got a tomato, and everybody was making pictures, and how many tomatoes do you have now? And I've got so many. How many kilograms of potatoes do you have? And things like that. I mean, it was great.
That's cool. And we also made the egg and chips plant as well, which was aubergines, eggplant on the top, potatoes on the bottom. And actually, kind of in the background, we were also working on a flower on top of a potato as well. So it didn't quite work out. You didn't quite get the potato crops. But basically, you look at what's in Solanaceae family, and that is all possible, So,
that was actually the thing. The same family, so.
Yeah.
We've got Elena Diaz in as well. We've got Dimitris Papadakis in from Athens. We've got Barbara Blossom in. Good morning from Rhode Island. So we got people from all over the world. We've been talking.
Very cool.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about the garden and things like that, and also about names. But you also gave a tulip a name.
Yeah, no. Miami Sunset. I'm growing in my garden this season. I actually forgot that I'd done that, and I was like, oh, this tulip is pretty. And then someone said, "Yes, Miami Sunset," and But I've named a lot of plants over the years, just kind of from being, walking around crop fields with suppliers, breeders, or stuff that we've bred ourselves, or of course that rebranding as well. And you do need to have a good name for a plant. It can't just be, Kevin.
It needs to help, I think, the skills.
Definitely.
I've been doing it with some colleagues as well, and coming up with names, and we quickly get into the liquor part. So we had a limoncello and all those kind of things. But it was a really nice yellow one, and we made a big bottle out of those flowers. So it had some extra things as well.
What was that? Petunia? Or what?
No, it was a chrysanthemum.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So that's also to try to just to inspire people, and it's on top of people's mind as well. So it's a funny name, or there's something about the flower. It helps a lot.
Yeah. The only time you can really name plants after people is if it's not even a famous person, but a royal person. That's when it tends to work. Chrysanthemum, the Princess Charlotte chrysanthemum. That was really popular, or Princess Diana clematis, so they're the ones that really work.
Yeah, but don't do a famous Dutch singer or something like that. They had a lily called Willeke Alberti.
But also, it's got to translate to different markets as well. So if you can have a universal name, that's obviously much better for you.
Yeah, I mean, it helps. And also just be careful when choosing a name. Maybe in another language, it means something totally different.
Yeah.
That can happen as well. But you're so busy, it's unbelievable. Like I said, you've got the podcast, you're on television. You're on social media all the time, and you still have time to do your garden.
Yeah, I don't know really. It's just I think
This is the
what it
old picture,
is.
by the
That's
way.
the before, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think, oh, that's not much there. I think just because it's my passion, like, oh, that's the in between.
Yeah.
Because it's my passion, it's also my career, and so there's no kind of in between. So it's kind of I guess everything I do, I'm working towards something in my career because what I'm interested in is plants, all day long. So yeah, that's actually before the tulips were coming out. So yeah, it's amazing to look at this and see how much it develops even in just a few weeks. Actually,
Yeah, because I've got the one
thank
with
you
the
for putting
tulips
those
as
up.
well. Look.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's cool. But I took it from upstairs. You can see my ironing board as an apparition in the corner there.
Yeah,
We've got a few questions. What do you think will be the next big thing in houseplants? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Will large foliage plants take over the scene from succulents? Well, I wonder where you are, Kirsten, because to be honest, I'm over large foliage plants already.
She's in the US, so normally the US is a little bit later than Europe.
Because to be honest, in the UK, obviously cacti succulents were hot for a while, and then it went into this kind of jungalo and urban jungle bloggers kind of thing with all of the foliage plants. And to be honest, I found that all a bit repetitive. So I actually put together a video on my YouTube literally a couple of weeks ago looking at 14 new and different houseplants. And this was everything from Kalanchoe, but obviously the lovely double Calendivia ones. You got the magic bells, which of course they're succulent, so they're easy to grow. People aren't necessarily going to go wrong with those. But also looking outside the box, so Streptocarpus, I think there's a great market for those. Also, perhaps reviving African violets, St. Paulia, and Dummen had some nice varieties on trial a couple of years ago, actually, of St. Paulia. But also, there's different, like the resurrection plant, this one that dries up and then bounces back like an air plant. This is Streptocarpus grandis with the uni leaf. Isn't that amazing? Not the best mail order product, though, huh?
No.
It looks a bit breakable. And then in addition to that, there's some other stuff that I've been seeing, which is liquid terrariums. So these are plants that are suspended in an oil solution. They're coming from Slow Pharmacy in Korea. There they are. God, you've got everything at your fingertips. I love it.
Circus is magic.
I know. Marimo moss balls. So yes, I'm just trying to get people thinking outside the box with those stuff because, houseplants and kind of the Instagram generation, it kind of all gets a bit samey, really. And just, I guess, purely for my own interest, I want to always kind of be thinking of different ideas, and hopefully other people can be inspired by those.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have been at home and got creative as well with plants.
Definitely. But also something that people don't do. And I actually did a seminar for The Joy of Plants, which is the initiative from the Dutch Flower Council a couple of weeks ago. And we talked about their new trends for the season. So, someone talked about cut flowers and I talked about houseplants. And we kind of looked at that and we did some companion planting. And, outdoors in your patio pots, you would, you'd mix things up. You'd have lobelia with nemesia or geranium, etc. But we never do that with houseplants much. The most that we've had are these kind of really twee baskets that you have outside the BP garage with Kalanchoe, chrysanthemum, and some ivy. And so we did some really innovative companion planting. And you can do that when you're using plants that have the same growing conditions. But also, something else that I do that is quite controversial is you might grow that and only expect it to look good for 3 or 4 weeks. I think a lot of us, like a lot of people take a plant and they expect it to look good for 6 months. But that's kind of a bit implausible and not the possible. And when you do that, you kind of like limit yourself a lot. And so you'll see I've done this companion planting with houseplants, but also you've probably seen the work I've done in Japan on the containers, the outdoor containers. So this is called Barakura style. And this is basically packing in a lot of plants into a pot. So really filling all the space with the plants that you've got. So you're basically flower arranging with living plants. And it gives you such freedom to create something and have instant impact. And that container might look good for 5 weeks. It might not look good for 5 months, but it will look really good for 5 weeks. And then you can replant it, put it somewhere else. So yeah, it's just thinking outside the box and not trying to, not being worried about breaking the rules.
Yeah, and let's be honest, if you buy a plant for a couple of pounds or dollars, how can you expect that it will live for 5 years?
I know. It's crazy, but do you know what? I was thinking about that this week in my garden because the tulips are in flower and I never want it to end.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I will show the garden so
sure.
we can see it.
So I'm not sure it's necessarily about value. I think it's more about kind of enjoying the flower and just wanting it to go on and on and on. But of course, you can't necessarily have that. And it's good to kind of evolve and change. You can see how the garden's really filled out, actually.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think spring, I like the spring the best, It's really, and you'll see that in the garden. I mean, I've got access to the industry, so it's a bit easier for me, but I've really densely planted everything. I'm not waiting for stuff to fill out. When stuff fills out, then I will thin out and take plants out of the area. But basically, I'm planting really densely to get that instant impact. And of course, the more plants you plant, the more you keep moisture locked into the soil, the less weeds you're going to get as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it directly looks beautiful. And to be honest, if you look at the investment of doing it, and to make it look okay, it has to grow for another 5 years or directly plant it like it's a direct wow effect. And there's not a huge difference if you know what to plant and when to plant, so it's flowering all seasons, which is I think very important as well.
Yeah, definitely. But you can change up the seasons and just experiment as well. That's the thing.
Dimitris Papadakis is saying it's very important for people who love to discover new varieties of plants to approach the new products with an attractive commercial name for their loved plants. Yeah, like we just discussed. I think that's really important. And also tell about what's the USPs of the plants. These plants attract bees or butterflies, things like that. I think that's so important to do.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about, showing plants in a way that people can communicate and understand them, and talking about putting plants together in an area that is plants that are good for bees. It's going to help people navigate that much better than it is an A to Z of perennials. That's great for the experts, but not great for because if I walked into I don't know, what am I not good at, like DIY. If I walk into a DIY store, I'm not fully versed on how to do DIY and all of those jobs. So it's kind of a real mystery to me. And I walk in and you kind of panic. And I think for people that are non-gardeners, they have that same feeling in the garden center. So as much as we can do to soothe that, we should do,
Yeah, maybe we have to have a look at Lego. If they just gave us the bricks, then we didn't know what to do with it as well. And now they got an explanation with it. And now you will end up with a nice flower bouquet.
This is just amazing. All the pieces is just, oh my God, it's such fun to put together. It took me over an hour, but it's really, it's cool. Lego's come a long way. Have you seen there's a bonsai plant as well?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, but they got all the nice buildings as well now, so they really Lego.
But this one, this sold out instantly as well.
Yeah,
very popular. But because what's amazing is for horticulture and plants, we've become mainstream, I guess you could say, which is just brilliant. We kind of always wished for this, didn't we? So like now you'll see houseplants in clothes shops on the high street. It's like, it's a really good time for horticulture. And pandemic, for all its negative aspects, that's been really positive for horticulture as well.
Yeah, really. I mean, I've said it a lot of times during these flower circus talks. A lot of wise men and women were thinking about how do we get the young people into gardening, into flowers. It took us a pandemic.
Definitely.
But it's really good that people are enthusiastic and that they try new things. And like you said, putting a lot of plants together can be really nice as well. And okay, it's 5 weeks and it's really nice, but it's probably for the same price as maybe 2 bouquets who will last for 1-2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. There's a market for all of this stuff. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And to just keep innovating and showing people new stuff as well as offering their favorites.
Yeah, and switching with new things every time. I mean, that's something my uncle already understood a long time ago when we had 4 flower shops in the same street, and
Okay.
every week he brought something new and special from the auction. And
Uh-huh.
people came in and were asking, "What's that? What do you
Yeah,
have this week?"
that's cool.
And 9 out of 10, of course, just bought their regular bunch of tulips
Mm,
or roses. And always there was some person who said, "Okay, I want to buy it as well because we had an
mm,
interesting story to tell as well." Because look, this is from the Amazon or we have
mm.
the craziest things, but people come into the shop and say, "Wow, this is really nice," and start talking about it as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just a talking point, and it's like people, plants are collectible as well. People want to hear the stories behind them, and
Yeah,
have different ones, and also show off to their friends with them as well.
yeah,
Because
and that,
gardening in a cute way is quite competitive. Oh, I've got
yeah.
this cool plant. Oh, can I have a cutting?
No, but it really is, and then the big problem in this industry was for a long time was and still is price.
Mm,
We always think it needs to be cheaper, but if we are
mm,
getting better in telling those stories, those people don't
yeah,
talk about the price anymore. They will tell, yeah, this is from a mountain in South Africa. It only grows on that
yeah,
mountain, things like that. Then they don't think
definitely.
about price.
As long as it's still affordable, then
Yeah,
yeah, you can get away with a little bit more. So, but especially with mail order plants, you've got the opportunity to tell people more of that story, haven't you? So you
yeah,
can you can go into a lot more. And of course, you don't have that chance in the garden centre, but with mail order you do. But also with TV shopping sales, you do have an opportunity to present the plant and perhaps show video, pictures, live samples, which is great, really.
yeah.
It's a great opportunity to do that. I don't think you have any shopping channels there in Holland, do you?
No,
No.
no,
No.
not yet, unfortunately. But
Mm.
Kirsten Van Dyke is saying, when I had my retail shops, I had houseplants growing everywhere. Plants sold equally well as cuts. This was 10 years ago with the studio-based florist of today. Having an arsenal of plants like the aeroids is just good business.
Mm. Oh, definitely. Yeah, and good margins on them. So yeah.
Yeah,
But I'm an innovator, so I'm always looking at what's beyond, what's next. So yeah.
yeah, and that's where it's really fun. I mean, in Holland, week 24 in June, always fun
Yeah.
to go to all the breeders and see what's coming up and picking out things and saying, okay, this is going to be a hit, or I really believe in this. I mean,
Mm. But
that's
you know
really,
what? It's week 24 to me as a product developer. If I see something at week 24, then I'm seeing it too late, because as a
yeah,
product developer, I want to know the breeders. I want to know the product developers. I want to be visiting the breeding grounds and kind of getting behind the scenes and to some degree influencing what they select, because
yeah,
we're the ones that know about the consumer. We're the ones that can rescue, that rosebud busy Lizzie from the bin, because they won't see the commercial value. So very often, a lot of the plants that I have kind of brought to market have been almost like before they've got to the flower trials. So if I see something at flower trials that I don't know about previously, then I don't feel like I've done my job well enough. Do you know what I mean? Because
yeah,
I
that's
really need to
true.
be going there and getting behind the scenes in the kitchens where the plants are created in order to kind of give that real-time customer feedback as well,
Yeah,
Mm.
and let's hope that also this pandemic helps in that part, that breeders go out more. We're doing more online. Let's get all those information
Yeah.
mingled because a lot of breeders are only focused on one product
Mm.
and searching for, I don't know, maybe a bigger plant, while the market is asking for smaller plants because the plant is too
Mm.
big to get on the balcony or whatever.
I guess it must be hard when you're a breeder and you're looking at something from a really different angle. Like, it's easy for us because we see the whole portfolio of plants
Yeah,
and all the different types. But when you're a breeder, it can make you a bit more insular. Not in a bad way, but it's just that's how it is. So yeah, very different.
yeah. People buy plants. They don't actually, or
Mm.
flowers. They don't go into a flower shop and say, "Okay, I want this specific plant." That's
Mm.
of course there are some people, but most of them just go in and buy what's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
Dimitris is saying, I believe that it is time to promote now arrangements with plants, not only with indoor plants, but and with outdoor plants in pots or baskets.
Yeah, well, that's kind of this Trixie series from Selector where you got the three
Yeah.
different plugs in one pot. That kind of started off that trend, and I think they've done it really well because, of course, those plants are all kind of equal growth habits. They're very uniform. You're not going to get that kind of lopsided, messy basket that amateur consumers would potentially plant because they haven't got the know-how. So again, you're giving the customer a real helping hand with that. So I think they've been fantastic, and they're so successful, rightly so.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you don't have to do it in a later stage. It's directly planting it, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's already mixed for you,
Yeah.
So,
So we've got Anna in. Hello from Azores. Love your work.
hi.
Beautiful island there. Um, you're also sometimes a bit creative with plants.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always looking at plants from different angles, and yeah, I don't know. So these are some of the plant pins that we sell through the shop, and they're just on my Christmas cactus. I think probably most people would be like, "Oh no, you're going to hurt the plant," and it's like, "Well, nah, it's just one leaf,"
Yeah.
I don't know, it's probably completely unethical what I've done there.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's fun and
Having fun.
yeah, and not being afraid of hurting a plant or whatever. I mean, that's what it's all about, and that's what Flower Circus is about, and what I see with Mr. Plantgeek as well is about having fun with plants, with plant names as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think something that's become such a weird, contentious issue the last few years is, spray painted plants. Yeah, of course, they might not be to your taste, but actually, there's a market for some of that,
Yeah.
and why judge what someone else likes? And kind of, yeah, it might not necessarily be great for the plant, but I know there's a few kind of more plant friendly options out there. And I think some is just more of a spray than kind of there's somewhere it covers a whole velvet sheen on the plants. Not sure about those, but
Yeah.
just let people, if they want to have a spray painted heather, then let them. It's not the end of the world, and there's always going to be a market there. Whatever, regardless of if you think that it shouldn't be done or you don't approve of it. So
I'm for sure that some people who are selling paint and that they're selling a color and they think I will never paint my house like that, but it's fun.
yeah.
So
It's just a bit of fun, and it could be that person has bought a spray painted heather, and it could be their first, introduction into growing plants, and then they'll move on to real plants and plants that are, slightly, more tasteful, one might say, but who are we to judge,
No, I mean everybody has his own taste. So and if people like it and their interior is like this and it fits, I mean, like you said, who are we to judge? So the podcast number one, that's great. A lot of fun as well during the podcast.
yeah, really happy with that result. So number one in the home and garden charts, and it's been at number one a week actually. And I think it's, if you've listened to it, have a little listen. It's called the Plant-Based Podcast, and Ellen, my kind of co-host, she's really similar to me. She's quite light-hearted. She doesn't want to be too stuffy about the kind of information, but at the same time, still wants to be efficient with the info, still wants to be accurate, but not kind of being like super serious about it all the time and kind of like, getting stressed because, stuff is like, got to say it the right way, blah, blah, blah. But like, and when we interview, you'll find that it's kind of really knowledgeable, but really light-hearted at the same time. And we found a nice balance with that, and it's really fun. And literally after this call, we're recording Sunday's episode, and every other week we're doing a news episode. So we collect together loads of different news stories across Europe and then kind of have a bit of a kind of gossip about them. And and really, really happy that we kind of got this top of the charts, really. So
well, it's really, like you said, informative and fun to listen as well. So it makes it, if it's too heavy, then I mean, you have to concentrate all the time, and I mean, this is just fun to listen.
Totally.
For sure. So that's really great. Within a month, is it a month? No, April, May. Yeah. It's Gardening Day.
Yeah, Garden Day. So this is an initiative in the UK by the app Candide, actually, and it's been around. Oh, it must be on the 4th year now. It was a really good virtual garden day last year. Worked really nicely, and kind of the basis around it is just to use that day to relax in your garden or outdoor space. And if you so wish, to build a flower crown.
Yeah, I've seen some flowers doing that as well last year. So it's really
You
fun.
could do a flower top hat.
Yeah, I've got some pictures there, but it doesn't look good. Trust me. And talking about relaxing in the garden, and you also do a lot of charity work. You also been naked gardening there as well a couple of years ago. I don't have pictures, so people who want to see it, just go to Google and try to find
it. We raised like about £25,000 for charity, and
wow.
I don't know where it even came from, but there's a thing called World Naked Gardening Day, which is the first Sunday of May every year. So obviously it's coming up soon, and it just was a bit of fun, and we did a shoot. We pulled together a load of guys and did a shoot at Virgin Kensington Roof Gardens in London, and then started to do different challenges, so like mud runs and kind of skydive as well, kind of like naked skydive but in a morph suit that looked naked. Just interesting ways to raise money for Perennial, which is the Gardeners Benevolent Society in the UK. And as I said, we raised about £25,000, which is fab. And the team was called Grubby Gardeners, and we did about 5 different calendars. But to be honest, I don't want to do anything for too long. I think I've got a short attention span, but also I think for your brand, it's good to show yourself constantly evolving, similar to Madonna. She will have done that in her career. And so I feel like I kind of retired a bit from that now, but I literally, I had a call this morning. They want to do some feature on a TV program next Friday. And of course I don't know if I can turn it down. So what Kirsten said, is it about taste or something else in terms of paint?
Yeah. For me, it has nothing to do with a designer or a hobbyist decorative style. It's more to do with other issues.
Yeah, there's some environmental issues there for sure.
Yeah.
But there must be options. We've got what's the glitter, which is not, I don't mean edible glitter, but I mean much better glitter for the
biological.
So
biological.
Once we move to those, then it might not be so bad to use it on the plants.
And most of the paint that's biological as well for the flowers. That's what I know at least. So I can't speak for everybody, of course, and people who are doing some DIY don't know what they are using, but the bigger producers or the painters in Holland, they use biological paint.
Definitely.
Yeah. Talking about fun and plants and flowers and other things, I found this on the 1st of April.
I never know what you're putting up next.
Okay. Surprise, surprise.
Aha, this is cool.
Yeah.
Is this the video? Yeah. Is it going to play?
Yeah, it's playing now, so you can't see it. It's playing now.
It's not playing at my end, but
no.
You can see what happens, yeah?
Yeah, so you got a t-shirt and it grows out nice plants as well.
And this was my April Fool. I've actually done April Fool most years for the last 10 years. We did we built a sunflower that had a USB port one time, and it also had an integrated light bulb.
Yeah.
What was another one? I think maybe egg and chips plant. When we released that, we pretended it was an April Fool, but obviously it wasn't. But there's some great horticultural April Fools out there. The best one for me is the one by I don't know which growers it was, but Dutch growers, and they put a bag of bulbs, tulip bulbs, in the microwave.
Yeah.
And they were saying they were quick to flower, and they then brought them out and they were in bloom, and that was amazing. Loved it.
Last year there was a lily grower as well who said they had crossbreeded a lily with another plant that closes at nighttime. So that's why the phase life was twice as long.
The what was long?
The phase life was twice as long because the lily would close at nighttime and then open again in the morning.
I never saw that at all. I did something with a lily actually a couple of years ago, and I spray painted one blue, and I said it was like the rare Welsh lily that has been discovered. And I think sometimes the best April Fools are kind of where you're not sure if it's a fool or not. So it's probably 60% you believe it, 40% you don't. I think that's a good balance for an April Fool. It's going to make you kind of wonder.
Yeah, but the flowers are just great to do all those things. I mean,
Yeah,
it's beautiful. I mean, it's so great talking to you. I think we can talk for hours and hours. I mean, sharing the passion for plants and for flowers. I mean, that connects all the people around the world as well.
Mhm.
And I mean, you're doing a great job, and please keep on inspiring people. And
Thank you very much.
who knows, we can do something together with the circus.
Yeah.
I will get a nice hat for you as well.
That'd be really cool. Yeah. No, I love to find out more about what you do and stuff. And if there are ways that we can collaborate, that'd be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing already quite some flower shows or design shows with flowers, bouquets every first Friday of the month. Maybe it's cool to do a plant show as well, like you said, mixing up baskets and pots like that. So
yeah, give me a shout. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, great.
Cool.
Any famous last words?
I just want to thank the audience, really. We had some really nice comments down the side, some really good questions. Nice to see people from all around the world. That's amazing as well. And kind of, I think I'm really fortunate to have a good network like that. And it is about learning from different cultures and kind of what different trends there are in different places, kind of different plants. And even if there are different climates, we can still relate them to our own climate as well. So, yeah, I mean, a couple of examples, like in Japan, for example, I noticed that, you know, people have lots of little pots with plants outside the front of their house. And I nickname that plant families.
Yeah.
And so you can do that in ours, you know, kind of collections of pots, like a jigsaw garden, you kind of moving around from time to time. So, yeah, there's inspiration around every corner.
Yeah, I mean that's the nice thing of traveling, finding out some things in another country and translate it how you can use it in your own country. I mean that's fantastic to do. Okay, thank you very much for the people watching. Next Thursday, the 29th, we will walk in the flower fields, in the tulip fields.
Tuparai. I know these guys. They're brilliant. I love them.
So we already did a walk in the daffodil fields, in the hyacinth fields. But now we're going to go into the tulips as well, and Dan will explain everything about how to grow tulips and things like that. So that's going to be really interesting.
That's cool. Yeah, I know these guys well.
Yeah, I mean they're fantastic people, and they've got such a lot of knowledge. So I hope everybody has time to join us as well next Thursday.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a note for it. I'll try and join you as well.
Yeah. So, okay, great. Thank you very much, Michael, for joining.
Oh, thank you.
We'll keep in contact, and hopefully we'll see each other live soon as well. And for all the people out there, thank you for watching, and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you. Next time I'll have a better, more floriferous background.